Pink Pearl was intriguingly the only gem on the show who had permanent damage done to her physical form, except a large portion of the Steven Universe community believe that we actually saw Pink Pearl's permanent scar get healed on screen during the very beginning of the epilogue series, which, you know, if true, meant that the thing wasn't really much of a permanent scar to begin with.
I'm so sorry. The whole trip was for nothing.
No, it wasn't for nothing. Your mother's pearls never had the whole picture.
After the ending of the early Steven Universe Future episode titled Volleyball, from the second that Pink Pearl would unfuse with Pearl, we would never get the opportunity to see the left side of Pink Pearl's face ever again.
You what?
Which was of course the damaged portion of Pink Pearl's face. And the writers, along with the storyboard artists, plotting together while going to comical lengths to keep Pink Pearl's face hidden from us. At certain points, even having the woman run around with a flower pot strapped to her face is undeniably suspicious.
What a sick joke!
At 06C3 said, while referring to the deeper meaning behind our girl Pink Pearl's mysteriously hidden and potentially healed facial scar, I think the point is that it simply doesn't matter. She's ready to move on whether her scar heals or not. She's living her life and that's a good thing, which is a perfectly reasonable point, but one that I don't completely agree with for multiple reasons, with the main one being that Pink Pearl clearly didn't need to appear during any of these later episodes of the epilogue series to begin with, especially when you consider the fact that she wouldn't even say a single word during any of them. And to be fair, this made sense because Pink Pearl's story arc was already completed by the end of Volleyball. The only thing that including Pink Pearl during the latter half of Steven Universe Future accomplished was setting up this mystery for us as the audience. The mystery behind whether it was possible for gem fusion to heal psychological scars.
Your mother's pearls never had the whole picture. One knew your mother was trying to change, but she couldn't understand why. The other never expected her to change at all. Now I get to understand everything. Now they finally get to have each other.
You know, in other words, while it is definitely still possible that this really was just meant to be an open-ended mystery with no definitive solution, as a wise man once said,
I missed the part where that's my problem.
At HaleyBoys1377 said, while referring to the potential reason behind why Pink Pearl kept her facial damage to begin with, I always interpreted it as not that Pink Pearl thought she deserved it, but the experience had left such an intense psychological impact on her that it was permanently expressed physically in her form, which seems to be the intended way that we were supposed to interpret Pink Pearl's dynamic with her scar.
Her physical form shows damage, but her pearl is perfectly fine. This injury must have been so impactful that it continues to manifest despite the fact that her pearl has been repaired.
So it's like psychological?
Alright, so in case you didn't notice, because I honestly didn't notice this detail for years either, but as at Delta064 would point out, Pink Pearl's facial damage was visibly getting worse on screen right in front of our very eyes while she was explaining her history with Pink Diamond and how she'd managed to get that absolutely gnarly scar in the first place, which is really cool. And this single easily missable detail confirmed something huge. It confirmed that the severity of Pink Pearl's facial damage was actively being tied to her mental state at any given moment. So Pink Pearl reflecting on the damage that she suffered at the hands of Pink Diamond on the day that she screamed at her caused the crack on her physical form to expand, which naturally raises the question, did the opposite of this happen at the end of Volleyball? Did Pink Pearl, getting the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to fuse with our girl Pearl and learn her perspective on Pink Diamond, lead to the positive effects of that interaction also reflecting on her physical form? Did fusing with Pearl, or more specifically unfusing with Pearl, help Pink Pearl become comfortable with the idea of healing and moving on from focusing on the trauma that she suffered at the hands of the Diamonds?
How did you stop hurting? I didn't.
I mean, yeah, it's easy to forget, but Pink Pearl was also implied to have been under White Diamond's control for thousands of years after being damaged by Pink Diamond.
Well, White's way of thinking is that she is everyone and everyone is her. She considers herself this default white light being passed through a gem that allows her to be 100% of that white light. And when she sees other gems absorbing certain colors of that light via what's inside of their gems, she sees that gem as being her, but a little bit less. In a way, White has no identity at all because she thinks that she's just light, and so everyone is her. And she feels like she can override people and turn them into her because she thinks that they're essentially the same. She's an extremely poorly differentiated person, but she does not realize that.
White Diamond, in her own twisted mind, might have believed that she was helping Pink Pearl, but there's definitely a whole nother layer to Pink Pearl's trauma that, as far as we as the audience know, she hasn't really addressed yet.
Well, they all exist as a body, which we show very literally with their ships. Pink is the id, blue and yellow are the ego, and white is the superego. And what happens between them, especially in Change Your Mind, is this one body's experience of embarrassment where the id is coming to the superego and saying, no, this, I want this, I like this, I am this, and the superego is saying no. And ultimately, it's actually not that, because this is not Pink. This is Steven, and he's a person.
Right.
But that was their dynamic in the past.
Just to be clear, the body is the allegory. They weren't literally...
They aren't literally... No. Their ships literally become a body.
Yeah, the ships.
Yes. But
they're still rocks.
Yeah, they're metaphorically a body. A body of people. A body of gems.
This is all very nice, but it doesn't solve the mystery.
Moving on, at Irradiated Pacific said, while explaining their thoughts on the mystery behind Pink Pearl's hidden facial damage head on, I think it will begin to slowly heal until the point that her eye is visible and usable again. But the crack itself will never fully leave. It's a metaphor for how trauma doesn't disappear once it's dealt with, but we ultimately grow past it enough that we can continue with our lives and see the path forward again. And I agree with Irradiated Pacific's theory on how Pink Pearl's hidden facial damage could heal itself over time, with one main difference. The crack was the portion of Pink Pearl's damaged face that she was confirmed to have had a certain level of control over, so it'd make more sense if she never regenerated her eye, as a metaphor for how trauma doesn't disappear once it's been dealt with, but slowly lost the cracks around it over time. Either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this discussion, and I'm really hoping that Last of Us stars will be able to find the time to tell us the truth behind if fusions who give new perspectives to their components like Mega Pearl were able to help those gems move on from their past traumas, because I'm sure that it's yet another worthy contender to get called out as being one of the darkest secrets of the fallen gem empire.